Imagine a world where foreign powers are rising, borders are closing, and diplomacy is being replaced with domination. Now picture a leader who throws out the rulebook and writes his own strategy to reshape global order on his terms. In a world growing more unstable by the minute, one man's vision for security could shape not just a nation, but the entire planet. Is it a blueprint for defending American interests or a playbook for global dominance? In this deep dive, we'll unpack the documents, dissect the decisions, and separate real strategy from political spectacle. Buckle up, because the truth might just change how you see the world. That's exactly what Donald J. Trump did with his national security strategy. But here's the big question. Was it truly a plan to protect America, or was it a playbook for unchecked power? From withdrawing from global pacts, to calling out China and Russia by name, to building walls and launching trade wars, this is the story of how Trump redefined national security and what it means for the future of the world. What is Trump's national security strategy? Every US president releases a national security strategy, a document that sets the tone for America's defense, diplomacy, and global presence. It's like a blueprint that tells the world, here's what we stand for, here's how we'll protect ourselves. Trump's version, published in 2017, was anything but traditional. It tore away from the ideals of international cooperation and replaced them with sharp-edged realism. Trump called it principled realism, meaning America will act in its own interest first, and moral diplomacy, that's optional. The strategy had four main pillars: defend the homeland, promote American prosperity, preserve peace through strength, advance US influence globally. But how these pillars were interpreted and acted upon would shock allies, embolden enemies, and divide Americans. The America First shift. When Trump said America First, he meant it, and not just in speeches. His foreign policy literally pulled the US out of the global driver's seat and slammed the brakes on decades of diplomacy. Let's start with the Paris Climate Accord. Trump walked away from this global agreement, arguing it was a bad deal for American workers. He said it punished the US while letting countries like China off the hook. Environmentalists called it reckless. But for Trump's base, it was a victory, putting coal, oil, and American energy above foreign climate pledges. Then came the Iran nuclear deal, a delicate agreement that slowed Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting sanctions. Trump called it horrible, disastrous, and said it gave Iran a free pass to fund terror. When he withdrew, it reignited tensions in the Middle East. Supporters said, "Good riddance." Critics warned, "You just opened Pandora's box." Even UNESCO, the global cultural agency, wasn't safe. Trump pulled out, citing anti-Israel bias and inefficiency. It was a message: if the global institution doesn't work for us, we're out. And remember NATO? Trump accused allies of freeloading and threatened to pull the US out if they didn't pay more. Pay your fair share, he said. Some allies panicked. Others actually did increase spending. The point was made. This America didn't do free rides. And finally, Trump cut US contributions to international institutions, from the UN to the World Health Organization. He even withdrew from WHO during a pandemic, accusing it of being too cozy with China. Critics were stunned. But to Trump, it was simple. Don't fund what doesn't serve America first. China, Russia, and the new Cold War. In previous strategies, rival nations were discussed in cautious diplomatic language. Not this time. Trump's NSS named China and Russia as revisionist powers, code for enemies who want to rewrite the world order. With China, the gloves came off. Trump accused Beijing of intellectual property theft, currency manipulation, unfair trade, and building a military empire in the South China Sea. He hit them with over $370 billion in tariffs, igniting a trade war that sent shockwaves through global markets. For some, it was bold. For others, it was dangerous brinksmanship. With Russia, things were complicated. While the NSS called out Russia for cyber attacks, election interference, and military aggression, Trump often downplayed Putin's role. Remember Helsinki? Trump stood beside Putin and said, "I don't see why it would be Russia," directly contradicting US intelligence. It triggered bipartisan outrage. So what did we get? A trade war with China and a strangely soft stance toward Russia. It was a foreign policy puzzle the world still hasn't solved. Cybersecurity and digital warfare. The battlefield has changed. Today, wars are waged with keyboards and code. Trump's strategy acknowledged this. He elevated US Cyber Command, gave more power to the NSA, and authorized new rules for offensive cyber attacks. The US could now hack back at foreign threats. But critics say Trump's response to actual cyber attacks, like the massive SolarWinds hack, which compromised US government systems, was weak. Despite proof of Russian involvement, Trump claimed it might have been China. The strategy recognized cyber as a threat, but in practice, it often felt like too little, too late. Energy, economics, and global leverage. Under Trump, energy wasn't just about power bills, it was about power, period. He unleashed American fossil fuels, approving pipelines, expanding fracking, and rolling back regulations. Trump made the US a net energy exporter for the first time in nearly 70 years. He called it energy dominance. And it wasn't just about jobs. It was about leverage. If America controls oil and gas, it doesn't need to rely on the Middle East or play by Europe's green agenda. But that independence came at a cost. The environment suffered, emissions rose, and critics argued Trump ignored the climate crisis for short-term wins. So was it smart strategy or environmental sabotage? Depends on who you ask. Immigration as a security issue. For Trump, the border wasn't just about immigration, it was about national security. He built sections of the wall, deployed troops, cracked down on asylum, and most controversially, he separated families and detained children in border camps. The images shook the world. Trump defended these policies as necessary to stop crime and terrorism. But the data said otherwise. According to the Cato Institute, the odds of being killed by a refugee in a terror attack are 1 in 3.6 billion. Then came the Muslim ban, a travel restriction on several Muslim-majority countries. Critics called it racist. Supporters called it bold. The Supreme Court ultimately upheld it in a 5-4 ruling. These weren't just immigration policies. They were statements that divided the nation. The strategy's critics and supporters, Trump's strategy had its fans and its fiercest enemies. Supporters saw it as a necessary reset. After years of endless wars and weak deals, Trump was shaking things up. Defense budgets hit record highs. NATO spending increased. China was finally being challenged, but critics called it erratic, hollow, and dangerous. They said Trump abandoned allies, empowered dictators, and used national security as a political tool. Even insiders like John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, eventually turned on him, calling his foreign policy chaotic and driven by ego, not strategy. So what was the real plan? To protect America? Yes. To assert dominance? Definitely. But also to reshape the entire global power structure around one idea: America first, and alone if necessary. Trump didn't want to lead the world. He wanted to leverage it. Every handshake, every speech, every tweet. It was all part of a bigger narrative. Power through pressure. Whether that's brilliant or brutal, that's up to you. Donald Trump's national security strategy wasn't just a document. It was a declaration. It shattered norms. It challenged allies. It redefined what it means to be strong. But here's the big question. Did it protect us or isolate us? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and come back next week because we're exposing China's 2030 strategy to become the world's #1 superpower. This is Pro Pathway. Welcome to the New World Order.